Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Triple P, the Pats Pro podcast. I am your host, Pats Pro. I would first like to start off by apologizing for the lack of pod. Life sometimes get in the way, but the good news is we're back at it just in time for the regular season to come around. I am not alone, however. I'm joined by two guests today, again, because I'm an overachiever. The first being a man some have called, not me, but some, the ultimate homer. He's known on Twitter at SavageSports _. The underscore is very important. Very smart man I am. We simply know him as Savage. You could call him Scott. I'm not going to. Savage, welcome in. How are we feeling tonight?
Doing good, man. What's going on?
You know what? I'm so excited for football to be here, but I'm feeling a little doomery tonight, so I'm hoping our next guest will be able to talk some sense into me. We are joined tonight as well by this founder of ScoutedNFL.com. He's known on X at ScoutedNFL. Scouted NFL is how you pronounce it, but it's ScoutedNFL. Or his personal account on X, which I forget what it is. I think it's Daniel.Rotman, something like that. So,
Yes.
Dan, I'm a terrible person. I apologize, but it's Daniel Rotman. Dan, how the heck are you? And am I the only person on the internet who says scouted correctly?
You are one of the only people who says it correctly. My personal one, you remember the underscore for Savage, me as well. It's an underscore, so you'll have to get that down pat. But always appreciate you having me on the pod, and it's good to be back now, closer to football.
Well, listen, we always look for points to work on, and that's going to be something I take back. But I'm really happy to have you guys here. I kind of just want to dive right into it. How are you feeling about this team? I'm going to give my take first instead of being a gracious host. I'm kind of a bit of doom and gloom a little bit. I know when we last recorded a podcast, all three of us, I was like, they're 11-6. It guaranteed. After going through the summer, seeing the moves that were and were not made, I'm looking at you, Joe Tooney. I'm kind of dooming. I'm feeling 8 or 9 wins is kind of the ceiling for this team. Dan, I'm going to go to you first. What are you feeling now?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fair assessment, but I think it's also a natural progression of the offseason. You know, when you see these parts come together, like the reality is no matter what team you're a part of, like you're just going to look worse than the expectations are coming in. When you make all these roster moves in the offseason and you start to fantasize about these draft picks and these offseason moves, like you're expecting everything to come together perfectly. And the reality is no matter how good your roster is, there's going to be a ton of up and downs, especially at this point in the season. So I think a lot of that was to be expected. I'm sure we'll get into it, but I think for me, the biggest issue is probably just the depth, especially across the offensive line. I think our starting lineup across the board is good enough to muster up potentially enough wins where we're getting closer to our original prediction. But my kind of concern is if we get a couple of key injuries and a few guys go down, that confidence level might go down a little bit. And I just don't feel like we don't have the same depth as some other teams do, which is to be expected given the last couple of years of what we've gone through.
I think that's a fair take. Savage, what's your 30,000-foot view here?
Yeah, I think, I agree with what Dan said, where it's kind of like a natural progression. I think that's true. I also think this is kind of this is like a media phenomenon. So it's more than just a progression. It's like, everyone was all hyped at the same time, right? And now you're seeing every single media outlet, beat reporter, local guy, all at the same time start to be like, don't love this roster, just not loving it. And then as soon as it's like Felger and Maz, and then it's whoever else, like everyone starts ganging up on the same take. It's like a social phenomenon. We're all just like group think, right? We're coming together and everyone's like, I really don't like this roster very much. And I think in some regard, you got to try to stick to your guns in some way. Like, so for instance, if you really like the defense, like, yeah, there's low depth, but if you like the defense, you think they're going to be giving up 13 points a game, they're going to win a lot of games. They're going to do all right. If you think they didn't do enough on offense, stick with that take. But like, it's funny, like the roster's the roster. There's holes, there's depth issues for certain, but I just think like this is a lot of groupthink happening. And I obviously love that we're venturing into like an actual game week so we can start to actually talk about like a specific matchup.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair assessment. And I mean, it's a self-scout thing for me. I have been listening to too much Felger and Maz, so that could be affecting the old brain chemistry. But I mean, just From let's actually go to the defense real quick since you mentioned it. I'm worried about Christian Gonzalez. I think the three corners they have behind him, Davis, James, and Alex Austin, I think those are three solid corners. Where I'm really concerned, I mean, the front is okay. Where I'm really concerned is the middle of the field. And I know everyone's given this take, but after Robert Spillane, who the hell do they have? Savage, I'll let you go first. What's your concern there on the defense?
They have nobody. They have no one who can play the position like Spillane's going to play the position. Like he's they're one of their most important players on the team, on the defense. And I know he's a new guy, but like they have set like is he Jack Gibbons? Like who's like Tavai's on the short term IR, and I don't think would give you anything like Spillane would give you. So like no, I think Spillane is your number one guy, and I think he's a really talented player. But yeah, he absolutely cannot get injured. I mean, that's a real issue. If you want to talk about not just groupthink, but like a real issue, depth is a true issue. Like there again, Will Campbell, not to jump to the offense, like Will Campbell goes down, okay, you don't have much. You know what I mean?
It's Vidarian Low.
Like even if Christian Gonzalez goes down, like that's not great. That's really obviously not what you want. And hopefully he's only down with a soft tissue thing like a couple weeks. But like Alex Austin maybe comes in and maybe he can do something, give you some sort of serviceable percentage of what you get from that. Like can Alex Austin give you 60% of Christian Gonzalez? Like I don't know what math people want to do, right? But like I don't know who's giving you anything from Spillane. I don't know. Like he's going to be your quarterback of the defense, your middle linebacker, your Mike, whatever, making all the plays. So like you need Spillane. I don't know. I think it's actually a huge issue. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Dan, what do you got?
Probably in agreement there. I think that's definitely the weakest link of our defense. If Gibbons goes down, like you really don't have that top guy in the room or anyone who's really put on legitimate NFL production. I think at that point, you're kind of just banking on Mike Vrabel getting the most out of these guys. Lucky for us, I guess the linebacker position is more of a position where you can get, safeties involved. You can play guys in different spots. So maybe you can get something out of a guy like Marte Mapu, a guy like Peppers, guys who aren't traditional linebackers, but who might be able to play a little bit more of a flexed out role. And so I think he's probably going to have to bear the load there. And that's going to be something where we're putting Mike Vrabel, the defensive mind, to the test. And how good is he at getting guys into certain positions and making the most of what his roster truly is. But I think on paper, there's no doubt that that's probably the weakest link of that defensive side of the ball.
It kind of brings me, I still want to talk about defense. So we're talking about weak links. I'm kind of out on Keon White. I think I've mentioned this a couple of times on Twitter the past couple of months, but am I wrong in feeling that just Keon White is just not the player we all hoped he would be and really is never going to live up to that potential?
Keon White is like a Belichick guy, right? Like he's could play a strong edge. They thought he could affect the passer. He could do a lot of things really well. And they were hoping that he developed and grew more. And I think this is just like a hiccup from the summer where, as they say, he flashed early against the rookie Will Campbell, and you're like, oh, wow, maybe Keon White's doing something. And then he basically lost his starting spot to Caleb Von Chason. And the problem is, this is why I threw him out as maybe a sneaky trade candidate, only because you're going to have to pay him at some point. He's only probably here a couple more years. He doesn't affect the quarterback like you want him to. And if you're getting production from Caleb Von Chason and Harold Landry, I don't know, like they're going to rotate him in, as Rabel said the other day, but no, I think Keon, and he's like a kind of an odd duck guy too. So there's a few things there. Like he can be a solid, serviceable player, but like I'm not out on him. He should be a solid football player, period. Like he's a big, strong guy, but is he going to do what Vrabel wants? If Vrabel's obsession is affecting the quarterback, and that's what he's gunning for in this league, then Keon White is not your prototypical end,
Dan, how do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think for a player, he's like one of the most interesting trajectories coming into the season because, like, he's a guy where, week 1, week 2, week 3 in 2024, that's a guy putting up multiple sacks in a game. And then he kind of comes out and says that comment about liking tough coaching, which is a clear shot at Gerard Mayo. And so you come into 2025 and you're thinking to yourself, I think I even posted this, like, this is one of the candidates to take a massive leap forward because now he has that really defensive minded, really tough coach who's going to push him and get him there and who's very hands on and kind of, teach him the position and take him to the next level. And, I think he's flashed in camp. I obviously wasn't there, but it seems like it just didn't materialize into anything special, any stretches where we could confidently say this is a guy who's going to consistently win for us. And I do think that that's something that this Patriots team is lacking that we have had in years past with Judon, where there's a guy that is going to get you a sack every single game. I don't think that we have that guy, and I don't think Keion White's necessarily going to live up to the expectations that some of us thought he would early on. But I think that a Mike Vrabel defense is more so going to be a group effort between a ton of different guys, and I think that's why we got a guy in Milton Williams, because now we're going to have that interior pass rush that might take a little bit of pressure off those edge rushers. So I think it's going to be a real team effort there. I don't think we necessarily need Keion White to be the dominant Keion White that we thought he was. I think, as Savage said, we just want him to be at this point a serviceable guy that we can trust and who can sometimes occasionally blow up plays, but I don't think we need him to be a Judon level guy,
Yeah, just have him do his job, essentially, not to, use that turn of phrase, but just have him play within the defense, play within his role, and just make the smart choices, which at times last year he wasn't doing. He was just kind of trying to make a play, but he wasn't really in his fits properly in the run game, in the pass game. It didn't seem like he was playing for the team. So hopefully Vrabel, with the culture that he's instilled, can turn that around. I want to move to the offense, and I'm actually going to talk about a guy that Keion White, for lack of a better term, bullied the hell out of first day that we saw, and that's Will Campbell. Everyone knows that I am a big Will Campbell defender, but Will Campbell truther. I am cautiously optimistic that he'll be a serviceable tackle in the years to come, but I have just concerns like I would with really any rookie tackle, and I think I know where Dan's going to take his point here with a certain player. But Dan, what do you think could have been done, if at all, better at the left tackle position?
Honestly, nothing. I think that they made the right choice taking Campbell at 4. I think the nature of the offensive tackle position, like you said, as a rookie, that's one where you're going to have a ton of ups and downs. Like, it's a hard position to come in and play. And so I think no matter how good Will Campbell ends up being, it's to be expected that, he's not just going to be this elite player in year one. But I compare it to last year, and I look at the revolving door that we had at left tackle and what Vidarian Lowe gave us, which was next to nothing. And it's kind of like, if Will Campbell is even remotely living up to what most people think he can become, including myself, it's going to be a hell of a lot better than 2024. And I think at this point, like, that's what you're hoping for. You're hoping for a serviceable unit who might be below average, might be in the 20s range among the 32 units, but they're not dead last by a wide margin, which is what we were last year. So, I'm honestly confident in Will Campbell. I think that it's very telling to see him come back from lower days where the media has gotten on him and then come back and have a stronger day. So I think, from what I've heard, people are impressed with his ability to kind of just not get too hot, not get too cold, and live the up and downs of a rookie season.
I think that's a fair point. Savage, I know your feelings on Will Campbell, but how have you felt about him kind of through camp so far?
I mean, he's going to be your left tackle the whole season, period. Regardless of how you feel about it, there's no one else. Literally, he'll be better than Vidarian Lowe, and I think he's going to be an outstanding run blocker. He's already shown that. I know it's against like second, third string guys, but I think he's going to be fantastic on the run. Fantastic pulling, get out in space. He's really athletic. But I mean, it depends. Like, how, again, do you want to go with the current? It's like going with the current narrative, or do you want to stick by your guns in some regard? And so I'm hopeful for him, and I'm rooting for him. I don't know if he's still going to be your left tackle in 3 years. I don't know that. I know nobody likes that. I know when you talk in person, like, nobody, if I put that online on Twitter, people are like, well, how dare you? Like, listen, I don't know. You don't know. if he might be an all-world guard. I don't know. Like I think he's a great football player. I think his attitude's tremendous. He's a guy you want on your team for a decade. You want on your roster. Like I'm all for Will Campbell, the guy, but I have to see how he performs. If he comes out and gets roasted all year, like he needs to be serviceable. I'm happy with serviceable this year. He can't just get roasted every game. If he gives up fucking 3 sacks to Max Crosby, or whatever matchup they just like, we're gonna have problems, and he's gonna be the number one talking point in the fucking city. Okay, so all I'm saying, not to get all crazy here, but like you don't know if he is the left tackle of the future. Should he be on your team? Absolutely, absolutely. Let's see, as Dan said, ups and downs of the season. Let's see how it plays out. I'm going to be watching him every week. I'm going to be rooting for him every week. And I really want him to succeed. I just want to clarify that. I want him to succeed. It's like, it's a hard position to play. How many really outstanding left tackles? Dan's probably answers better than I can. How many outstanding left tackles are in the NFL?
Yeah, not meant. It's
6,
probably
7.
You know what I mean?
6,
Like
7. Yeah,
we're talking
something like
low percentage point of a position. It's just like saying how many outstanding quarterbacks are there, and we might say like there's 10, like in the planet.
Maybe.
You know what I mean? So, so again, it's a really difficult position to play, and I hope he does a good job. And again, I'm fully buying the person, and I just need to see how he does. That's
for
it.
sure. I think like one kind of bar that I set for him is, especially at the left tackle position, is he getting in the way of your operation? Because last year that was the case. Vidarian Lowe was, a very obvious point where we couldn't run what we wanted to run because of him. Is Will Campbell getting in the way of what you want to run? And for me, at rookie left tackle, that's kind of the bar I'm setting. If he's just a guy that you can kind of forget about, he's giving up some pressures here and there, he's giving up some sacks here and there, but he's not a reason why you're changing your plans. To me, that's a success in year one. So I will definitely take that play, and that's kind of what I'm hoping from a rookie left tackle.
Yeah, it's just like you don't want to notice them at a certain point, right? You don't want to notice these there. You don't want to, see any of the obvious glaring holes, because we're going to be focused on Drake May. We're going to be focused on the next person I want to talk about, Travion Henderson, Ramondre Stevenson, whoever. But if you don't notice him and he's just doing what he's supposed to do, that's a successful season. And like, I hate that's where the bar is, but it's what it is for tackles. It's what it is for offensive line in this league. If you don't notice them, they're doing a good job.
Yeah, I think also, there's a point to be said. I think when people look at tackles specifically, they're always judging them on pass blocking. But that is one thing that we don't talk about, is like Will Campbell is and has looked like a phenomenal run blocker. And I don't think it's a secret, like the Patriots are going to want to run the ball a ton. Like that's always been a mantra of Josh McDaniels. And so I do think, with Travion Henderson in the backfield, with a commitment to the run game, like we shouldn't understate what Will Campbell and Jared Wilson, especially as well, can do for us in the run game. So I think that's going to be a big plus, that, if Will Campbell's giving up a couple pressures, people aren't going to talk about what he's doing in the run game, and I think that they should.
That actually segues us perfectly to Travion Henderson. I truly think he's RB1 from day one. Like, I don't think that's a question. Based on what we've seen, from what's been reported in the practices, Savage, I know you've been down there, I've been down there. He gets a lot of work, more than James White ever did, as far as I can tell. Am I wrong to say that Travion Henderson's the running back one come season start? Savage?
No. James White was obviously a great third down back, but like a pure third down back. So I'm like, again, he gets compared a lot to like Shane Vereen, who I think Travion will be a better runner than Shane Vereen. Shane Vereen was outstanding catching passes too, and was really, really athletic. He was a great player. But yeah, Travion to me has been special, and I don't think it's crazy to say he's the best player in the offense. And he might be the most dynamic player in the offense, obviously aside from Drake, and let's see how Drake does this year. But Travion's a dynamic player. He's ridiculously athletic and will catch the ball. He'll do everything. And he's apparently, the team thinks that he's been much stronger between the tackles than they initially gave him credit for. Like, he's a tough runner too. So he's a home run threat every play. And it's you did need some of those guys. I wasn't necessarily the hugest like position value guy in the second round, getting like running back, because you have two really good running backs. But again, like, I'm happy with it. just because I think he's a home run hitter, and hopefully he's a special player, and I think he's gonna make an impact. And like I said, you need elite talent. You need elite talent somewhere, right? And I would say at this point on offense, Drake is gonna hopefully develop into that elite player. That's what we want from Drake, and I think Travion will be an elite talent. Other than that, you don't have elite talent on offense. So that's what we need. We need to keep adding pieces and players. And even in the Brady years, not to segue into Brady freaking, but in the Brady years, because Brady was so elite, he obviously raised the competency level of every player in the offense. And like maybe who played with in the latter dynasty, Gronk, I would say, was the only other elite player on the offense as a weapon. Like, and then you had like Hogan, Amendola, Jules, and the guy Jojo LaFell, like guys spread out, but like Gronk was the elite weapon. So you're going to need at least a couple elite weapons on the offense, and then hopefully you can just rising tide raises all ships. So
speaking of home runs, just to interject real quick, Rafaela just hit one to take the lead in the Red Sox game.
Oh, sweet.
Figured I'd interject on that one. Dan, tell me how wrong we are about Travion Henderson.
Yeah, so I love Travion Henderson like a
darn.
lot. I just drafted him quite high in my fantasy league, and I'm getting a lot of calls and texts saying how high is too high to take him. And I feel like I'm a broken record at this point because I've said what I'm about to say 100 times to 100 different people. But like, here's the reality. Like, Josh McDaniels has a very clear type at running back, like we've touched on, and he got so much out of that position. When you look at those guys that Savage mentioned, James White, Shane Vereen, Danny Woodhead, Rex Burkhead, all these kind of versatile scat backs. Dion Lewis, exactly.
I loved Woodhead.
And exactly. And he got so much out of those guys, and no shade to those guys, but by no means were they exceptional talents. They were kind of very savvy roster finds who found themselves in a really good position and really good fit. And I think this is the first time that Josh McDaniels has ever gone out of his way and found that running back, used high draft capital on him, and found a guy that's actually a 4-4 home run hitter who has the speed, who has the size, who has the pass protection, who has the actual natural ability of a top talent. Like, this isn't just some guy that we're picking up off the street and putting into a perfect McDaniels situation. This is a very, very elite college talent that we're putting in the perfect situation. So that's point number one, is I don't think Josh McDaniels has ever had a guy this talented in that role. And he even said himself, like, he's never coached a running back who's this fast. And I think that's very true. Number two is, like, you're going to start that season, and let's say in week 2, week 3, you're playing Miami, you're playing Pittsburgh. Those are going to be close games. Those are going to be fresh teams. And I do think that Ramondre and Gibson are going to have a role in some capacity, 100%. But at the end of the day, you're going to be in very close games in the fourth quarter. And this is a team who has a lot to prove. Mike Vrabel has a lot to prove. Drake May has a lot to prove. This is a team who needs to win games. And when they need to win in the fourth quarter, they're not going to hand the ball off to Antonio Gibson or Ramondre Stevenson. They're going to hand the ball off to the guy that they spent the 38th overall pick on, who has the pass protection ability to play right away as a rookie. That's why they drafted him, because they need guys who can play now and they need to win games now. And Travion Henderson is probably the only guy on this offense that you can sure-handedly lean on to not only do his job, but also make plays consistently. So I think he's going to get a ton of volume, and I think he's going to be one of the most efficient players at the running back position in the league with the volume that he gets.
God damn, you just gave some of the best analysis I've ever heard. I have no retorts. I have no rebuttals. You've just taken all the wind out of my sails here. No, that's great.
I'll be using that as a clip to send to everyone who asks me. That's
Yes.
why I did it.
Mid-pod glazing.
Absolutely.
Mid-pod glazing.
Listen, mid-pod glazing. I'm not above it. Okay. No. So I just did, as reference, I drafted Travion Henderson in the 6th spot in my rookie draft in Dynasty. So incredible value there. He's going to be RB1 clearly. I kind of want to, the wide receiver room, everyone knows the wide receiver room. It's Pop Douglas is going to be the main guy. Steph Diggs has boom bust potential. I don't think that's really an entertaining topic to get into just because it's a subpar room. I want to talk about Drake May. I I love Drake May. I have a lot of concerns, specifically the beginning and end of games, but more the beginning of games. He just, I don't know what it is. He's the way I've put it is he's like a puppy who just, he's so excited when he come in the house. He just can't get his legs under him. He's flopping all over the place. He's so happy to see you. It's just like, and you could see it. He just settles in. The second drive or the third drive, but it's that first couple of drives where he's just all over the place. Dan, I know he's, you're one of your highest graded college players of all time. Did you take his in-game mentality into account when doing your evaluation? Like, how did you come to that conclusion? Because I agree with you. I'm just wondering if you saw that in his college tape.
For sure. Well, I'll start like even more recently. I always try to think about it like if I'm going to talk about Drake May in a negative way, because there has to be something that it can't be all rainbows and sunshine with any player that I love, no matter how good they are. What is the aspect of their game that does need improvement? And it was funny, I was thinking about this yesterday, and that's actually exactly what I came up with. I do find that when he comes into the games right away in that first series or two, he looks a bit out of it, like exactly what you said. Like he doesn't have his legs under him yet, and then okay, on drive 3, then he heats up, and then you see the fastball come in and the accuracy starts to get going. But I agree, there's always some wild throws on the first series, and I do think that that's something that's hard to pinpoint. I don't know why it is. I don't know what you can really attribute it to, but it's definitely something that I've seen. What I will say, and I don't know how much this relates to his in-game mentality or whatever, but like everyone I've spoke to who knows Drake May, who's been around him, who's been in programs with him, like he might not seem like it in the media because he's very, very well trained. He's a very competitive person. Like you obviously know it from growing up with his brothers and kind of the mentality you get there. But like make no mistake by his personality in the media, like he is a very, very competitive person. And anytime he does something wrong, like he hates it. Like that's what people say. Like he really, really hates losing. He hates making mistakes. And so I think that kind of lights a fire in him to come out in the next couple series and lock in a little bit. But yeah, I definitely see that. And it's something that's hard to really pinpoint or explain.
Yeah, it's. I remember watching an interview with Clyde Christensen, who, for people who don't know, quarterback coach for Peyton Manning, Tom Brady, and Andrew Luck. And when he was talking about Drake May, because he was a consultant over there during Drake's final year at UNC, uh, and it was just he said he had the mentality that you're looking for. Like he's a psychopath essentially. He may not show it, but in the rooms, he's an absolute psychopath, just like you saw with Peyton, Brady, and Andrew Luck. He said that the processing power is there. So I maybe it's just an adrenaline thing. He still doesn't know how to figure that out. I don't know. Savage, I'm gonna go to you. What's your overall take on Drake? Like, are you seeing the same things that Dan and I are kind of talking about? Like, what do you see anything different?
Well, just to just to clarify this quick, I think people so to speak for the Boston area, okay, just generally to speak for the Boston area, people hear someone from the South up here and they think it sounds stupid. Okay, they can't get it out. I'm
That's
like
fair.
not even joking. They can't get it out of their heads that somehow they're like slower paced or there's something like a slowness to it because we speak differently here. You speak quicker, more aggressive. There's different ways people talk here. Okay, in the Northeast, as Patspro knows, and I don't know how much time you've actually spent up here, Dan, and how people do get kind of crazy up here occasionally, right?
Yeah, guy, we start
So
talking real fast about all the things all the time. It's fucking great.
So anyway, so I grew up here my whole life, right? And basically, I think people genuinely hear him like they might have heard Brady at the beginning and kind of like a slower California kid, but like Brady picked it up, right? So for Drake, he's quick. He processes quick. He speaks quickly. You think people would relate to that, but somehow they're always like, because he smiles, he's like, man, he's always making these faces. Like, you can't see my face now, but I'm doing Drake May face, and like people, people really interpret that. Like the calls come in all the time. The radio, like, oh, this kid, I don't know, is he slow?
Yeah.
And literally they call in saying, is he slow? I'm like, I think he's like incredibly quick, actually, and he's an incredibly quick processor. And so people have to get a grip on that thing, and that's a regional problem. Okay, I just want to clarify that. So that being said, Drake May, yeah, he comes out a little hot, as people have mentioned multiple times. So did Brett Favre. So did other players. Like, they come out hot. Some guys come out jacked. Like, go back. I want people to take a look at how the joint practices went against the Vikings, okay? Not a preseason game. Joint practices when they're against high-level competition, okay? That first day, Drake May was on fire.
Slinging it.
On fire. Slinging it. Efficient. Good. On fire, okay? And that was against real competition. And they played very well against a good defense and a good coordinator throwing different looks at Drake. That was great. Day 2, everyone's like, oh, here we go. Snooty was talking about this the other day. He's like, they were in second and long, third and long, that whole practice. They were
And he was
practicing
still
second,
pretty
third and
good.
long. That was the Greenard practice, who got 3 sacks, and Will Campbell. We're like, fuck. Well, yeah, if he knows it's a pass and it's third and long, you know what I mean? So I just want people to get a grip in a little bit ways. Like, yes, Drake comes out a little hot. Yes, he's going to have to turn the ball over less this year. And I think he's going to do that. And I think he's going to have a better year this year than he did his first season. And I think by year 3, I hope we see more of a complete package of a player. If he comes out this year and is like a top 10 quarterback, then we are cooking, man. You're off. You're off and running. And if he does that,
pants off
Dan
running
believes
down
in
the
him.
street.
And if he does that, man, we're all set. So that's all I'll say.
So I'm actually really happy you made that earlier point about like him being from the South, because I actually have like an interesting story. So like I was talking to someone who coached him, and one of the things, this was before the draft, and one of the things that they said was they said this word for word, like people get this image in their head that he's not this kind of smart kid because of, you know, his accent and where he comes from and where you go to do these interviews. He said, make no mistake, like you have the arm talent, you have the mobility, you have all these things. Drake's number one trait is how well he understands football. And they have a test every single year called the AIQ test. It's the only test that NFL teams actually kind of still care about, and it's all about how you process information at any level. So it applies to all sports. It's about how you recognize patterns, and it's very, very much important for quarterbacks, and it's very telling how you're able to process that information. Like Drake essentially scored one of the highest scores ever in NFL history on that AIQ test, to the point where he had coaches in those meeting rooms asking him whether he cheated as a joke. So I think you make a great point there, and that's something that I've heard, that people have a very false image of who Drake May is, maybe because he has a different accent than the city that he plays for. But he is one of the sharpest minds, and anyone who has sat down with him will tell you the same thing. He is very impressive on the field. He is equally, if not more, impressive with what he's able to do sitting in front of a whiteboard. And you saw it with, you know, Brian Dable in that clip. Like, that's the reason why coaches fell in love with him, is because he knows so much about football, and his ability to process information is ridiculous. And if you were to talk to anyone behind the scenes, not in the media, of what stands out about Drake May, it's Josh McDaniels has an extremely complex playbook that not everyone has an easy time learning. Drake May is one of those guys who isn't going to have an issue with that. And, you know, in the experience of watching Josh McDaniels as a play caller, the more that he can put responsibility on the quarterback, the better the offense is going to be. And I think as the season goes, like Drake May is going to be doing a lot. There's going to be a lot on his plate, and the offense is only going to get better and better and better because Drake May is going to start bearing more of the load. So I think that's something that people need to start considering, and not, you know, reading into these narratives that the radio creates. Like, Drake May is a stud off the field and in terms of processing. So I think people are going to start to see that this year. I think he's going to get a lot more flexibility with what he's able to do at the line of scrimmage, and his vision and his reads. And I'm very excited to see that aspect and for that to be proved to other people.
Yeah, I just, and it's one thing that kind of came through when I went and saw one of the practices, you know, on the hottest day of the year, and I forgot sunscreen. But I was able to, when he was on the field, he didn't look lost, is the point that I'm trying to get at. He didn't look lost. He knew where he wanted to go with the ball. He was decisive, and for the most part, he was making accurate throws. And I think that kind of is perfectly encapsulated by that third down run check that he made in the second preseason game, where Henderson got the 10 yards for the first down. he identified what the defense is doing. He saw the massive hole in front of him and said, okay, yep, check, go. So it's not like he's wasting time. There was that one delay of game penalty, but he doesn't look lost, and I think that's a very important fact. All right. So
Well,
we've pretty much
I,
go ahead, Dan.
I'll say one more thing on Drake May. Like, I think that especially in the media, like, there is an epidemic of not being able to create an opinion beyond just like the on paper production. Like, no one is able to consider what these guys are specifically going through. And if you look back in history in terms of quarterbacks who have had to endure the type of situation that Drake had to endure last year, you don't know any of them because none of them survived. 99.9% of rookie quarterbacks who have to go through a situation even remotely close to what he had to endure last year, none of them had any success to the point where they didn't instill any sort of confidence in any of their fan bases. Like, you had Bryce Young playing some of the worst brand of football that you've ever seen in his rookie year to now, 1 year later removed, looking like people are saying, oh, he could actually be our franchise quarterback. And you have guys like, Sam Darnold, who come from the Jets, who are throwing 17 to 15 touchdown ratios, and then all of a sudden you go to the Vikings and you're throwing 35 to 12. So to have a guy like Drake May, who people said he's 3 years away, like he's not even close, for that type of guy that they're saying that about, to come into a situation that is essentially 32nd ranked in the NFL in every single category: offensive line, wide receiver core, rookie head coach, rookie play caller, to endure all of that in light of the fact that many labeled him as this guy who's not even close to ready to play. And then you go in and you put up average quarterback play. Do you know how ridiculous that is? Like, that doesn't happen. You can't find a guy who comes in as a rookie and plays in a comparable situation who has played at the level that Drake played in his rookie season, even though it might not pop off on page due to the games played and due to the situation. Like, this is someone that pound for pound relative to what's around them has survived something that not many people have been able to survive and instill a type of confidence that people have been able to instill.
Take that, Joel Klatt. Joel Klatt specifically was the guy who said he's 3 years away and he's the type of quarterback who's going to get somebody fired. Savage, you look like you may have a retort there. Am I wrong?
No, I just I was just DMing with somebody. No, so yeah, I would say I think when you compare Drake to someone like Jaden Daniels, right? Because those are the two, and I've made this point before, and those are the two that are going to be inevitably linked together, right? So Jaden Daniels and Drake came in very different situations, not only to different coaching staffs, roster talent, but Jaden Daniels had like 55 college starts and was expected to be a polished player, just like Mac Jones was coming out. Like Mac Jones, you got because you're like, he's day one, he's ready, he's developed already, right? That's why they got Jaden Daniels. And Jaden Daniels is getting, in my opinion, a little too much like ridiculous ratings. Like they're saying he's the 24th best player in the league already. Like that's really excessive. I mean, he was just a rookie, maybe sophomore slump. Let's see. I like Jaden. I think he's a good player. I think it's getting a little out of hand. It's a year 2 for a quarterback. But Drake had 20. What was it, Dan? Like 22 starts, something like that. He had like
Yep.
22 college starts in North Carolina. Changing OCs. He has every natural tool you could want. That's period, right? Every tool you could want, and we know that, and we've seen that on the field. But this is hopefully his first year where he has a real professional offensive coordinator that I think can maybe structure the offense and really help him learn. And everyone's like, oh, is it too much for Drake? Too much on his plate to the Brady stuff, like figuring out the offensive line, the protection schemes. And I don't think it is too much. I hope it's not too much. Just let him go. Just a whole 17 games. Let him go. Let him learn. He'll figure it out. We need players that can play with him. And, someone like Pop Douglas, who flashes in camp and does this. I hope Pop has a great season. But like, can Pop and Drake get on? We need them on the same page though. Like, and Pop has to learn too. Like sometimes Pop has to sit down in his own. You can't just keep running. You got to turn around and sit. And that's stuff where he's going to have to like really improve. Pop has to improve on that. Not just we're talking about Drake, like, but Pop has to improve. So, no, I'm really optimistic with Drake. I think like This is not the same situation as the Commanders, where you're dumping an experienced rookie into a decent roster. They're loading up. That's not the situation. So I would say it is infinitely better than last season, period. It's a better team, it's a better roster, and a much better coaching staff and front office. So that stuff I'm all optimistic about, and I think they'll be able to make changes. It's just they're at their wits' end, like the front office. They've done what they can do. They're trying to make trades. They're trying to dump players they want. We know for certain they've tried to deal Kyle Duggar. They tried to deal Anthony Jennings. They're trying to deal Kendrick Bourne. They're trying to deal him, and they couldn't deal him. Everyone's like, I don't want your players. Andrew Callahan had a ton on that today.
Yeah.
So, they don't want our players. So a lot of work to be done by the front office. I'll say that.
Yeah, I think that's also like a frustrating part of kind of the media is people are saying they should have done more with the offensive line. Like they exhausted essentially as much as they could. They spent the 4th overall pick. They spent a 3rd round pick. They signed a right tackle. Like they made offers to guys like Ronnie Stanley. You can't just get guys to sign with your team. Sure, they could have, signed a center and maybe Joe Thuney. There's one move to be made. Maybe you go down that route, but there's no doubt that they put a lot into this unit. And I just think we're at a period of time where like you can't expect these units to be at full force 1 year removed from last year's debacle. Like this is going to take a few years to have a fully filled out roster. To me, the Patriots' success is going to come from having a competent roster and having Drake May plus a combination of Mike Vrabel, Josh McDaniels, and a very easy schedule. I think they're a 7-win roster type team, and the added factors that I just mentioned could push them to 8 to 11 wins. So that's kind of where I'm at.
All right. Well, I like the takes here. I think they're very smart. I am going to still hold to my 9 wins. I think that's kind of where the team is. Having said all of this, and I know we're going long, boys, but we're just going to go a little bit longer. We have some questions, surprisingly. First question
from Mike Rodnick.
So we may or may not have 3 from young Mike. But
love Mike. Love you, Mike.
Love Mike. Mike has been the ride or die since day one. We love Mike. But the first question does go from a little-known creator called Snooty Boston. And the question is, and it's actually directed at Savage, surprisingly, why does SavageSports hate fun? Savage.
Hey, you could tell Snooty, why'd you delete your Twitter account a few years ago and start over? Huh? And now I have to pump up your tweets again and get you more followers.
Wow. Absolutely body bagged. Savage, please continue.
First of all, just so everyone knows, I've known Snooty since 6th grade, so I think we're okay. And I like fun.
So what is this an inside joke here? Did I miss something? What happened?
No.
Okay.
All right.
All right. We'll move on here. So the next one is coming from our friend Michael Rodnick, at MJ Rodnick on the old X Machine. Give him a follow. It's a good one. The first question of his is, taking Drake May off the table with the depth being an issue for the Patriots, who's the one player they can't afford to lose? And I fear we've already answered this question previously in the podcast. My answer would be Robert Spillane. Savage, what do you think?
Sorry, what was the question?
Who is the one player we can't afford to lose, excluding Drake May?
I think Spillane is a good answer. I think if injury-wise, I think Spillane would be devastating for the defense. But I guess since you took that answer, I think if Christian Gonzalez can't go, it's easy to take the elite talent. But like truly, like if he can't go, it just makes your job a lot harder. It makes everyone's job a lot harder. Or we could take another good one like Hunter Henry. If Hunter Henry goes down, is Hooper giving you anything close to that? You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Or Diggs. What if Diggs goes down and you feel like all of a sudden you don't have, like, there's some options here, but I think Spillane is actually a really good answer.
Dan, what do you got?
Yeah. To me, I think it's Diggs. I think you could obviously say any of the Spillanes, the Gonzalez's, anyone on the offensive line, but I think another one's definitely Diggs. Like, I think to me, he's a huge X factor this season. Look, I don't think we need him to be Buffalo Bills Stephon Diggs, but I do think we need him to be a legitimate, reliable target who can consistently catch 6 to 7 balls a game, which is what he was still in Houston. So, I'm kind of just praying that his injury isn't going to affect him too much in live action and he's kind of going to pick up back where he left off. But look, I think if he goes down, I love Kyle Williams and I'm hoping that he can kind of earn a role early on. But I think your room is looking pretty similar to years past if Stephon Diggs goes down or if Stephon Diggs just isn't a guy anymore, which I think he is. But I think that that's someone that you need to produce. So I'm looking forward to seeing him play, but I think he would be a very, very big loss if he were to go down.
I think all of us gave some really good analysis there. Um, for this next question, this is kind of going to be just a one-answer question. It comes from Brady Boy 12. Are you excited or nervous for the new rivalry jerseys tomorrow? What do you think they'll look like?
Oh man, is that tomorrow?
Yeah, that is tomorrow. I'm going to give a one-word answer, and it's actually not going to be one word. I do not care. I just know they're going to look like shit.
I unfortunately probably care more than I should. Not like I'm a bad judge of this, dude. I'm not like a fashion guy. I'm not like, you know what I mean? I got a bad, like if I was like an interior designer, like I'd be the worst in the fucking world. You know what I mean? I don't have an eye for that shit. But I would say this, like, I hope people like them. I hope they're cool. I just wanted the throwback blues. That's what I wanted, the old
I
Scott
would
Zolak
love the
throwback blues.
throwback blues.
Like that's what I wanted. I thought that would have been a home run, easy win. But now they're gonna do some like black and white washed out thing,
Ugh.
which like I don't know what it's gonna look like. I'm sure, it's tough. The last couple of days I've had to be like, you have to be on. I'm usually on the phone, try to be on the notifications quick, obviously, to run the Twitter. But like, I don't need to do it. Like, I'm sure if I see that things come up, I'll tweet out about the jerseys, but I don't need to be sitting there on it. Like for instance, during whatever the other day, during waiver wire and cut downs and stuff the other day, like I was on it for 2 hours. I'm there, like just on it. But you know what I mean? Because like you have to hyper focus. So I set aside the time in the day to do that, virtually, not really, but like, anyway, so sometimes you got to glue in, but I hope they release it in the morning and just get it out of the way.
Oh, wouldn't that be nice? They're not going to, of course. It's going to be 4 o'clock. Dan, same question to you. Are you nervous, excited, and what do you think they'll look like?
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys. I don't care too much. I mean, from the leaked photos, they didn't look too nice. I didn't love those
They look
concepts.
trash.
Like you guys, I was hoping we kind of got the throwback blues would have been cool, but it doesn't seem like that's the route of this whole rivalry thing. But who knows? I mean, when they did that color rush a couple of years ago, I guess that's what breeded our kind of current blue uniforms. So you never know. I'm excited to see us wear a new uniform, but yeah, honestly, I couldn't care too much.
All right. We've got 2 more here. The first one, and we're going to round it off with Mike Rodnick again, but the first of these 2, it comes from Stephen Coakley. It's actually a pretty good one. It's something that's come up kind of consistently. How the heck are the Patriots going to cover the tight end position? What are they doing there? Because so far from what we've seen, they haven't done a good job of it. Savage, let's go with you. What do you think they'll do there?
What do I think they'll do as far as like improving the tight end position?
No,
Is that what you're asking?
covering the tight end position, like because
Oh,
they were getting smoked by tight ends.
yeah, I don't know how the defense is gonna. I mean, we got to see how this shakes out. I think they have enough talent. Like, I got to see how the scheme shakes out. Like, it feels like in the past you would have had someone like Kyle Duggar. You would have said, "Hey, we're going to put Duggar on it," or maybe they put Jabril Peppers or Marte Mapu, like a small safe, small linebacker, big safety, right? Type of tweener type. Like you could stick Mapu on a linebacker, but or on a tight end, excuse me. But I mean, in week 1, if you're talking about Brock Bowers, if you want to be like specific, they're just not going to be able to cover Brock Bowers. Like they're going to have to like bracket Brock Bowers. Like I know people they're not doing enough hyping. I just like the player, like him and like Trey McBride. Like there's not enough hype about Brock Bowers, who I think is going to be like Travis Kelce now, basically. Like he might have like 1,400 yards receiving. Anyway, so I'm just high on Bowers. So I think they might have to bracket him, do some doubles, and just like make his life miserable. But they shouldn't be 1-on-1 on Brock Bowers. Is all I'm saying.
Yeah, I was gonna say like same thing. I guess it depends on the matchup. I was gonna say for week 1 against Vegas, like I'm at the point where I would just put Christian Gonzalez on him. Like I don't really see who's a threat
That's
outside of him.
yeah, but that's crazy.
And the way that he operates, like he's essentially a wide receiver. Like if you see him in line, like I don't care if I'm putting Christian Gonzalez on him. Like if that's what it takes, like he's running enough traditional wide receiver routes, and you have the depth at cornerback now to cover a room of, let's say Jacoby Myers isn't on that team anymore, Amari Cooper, Trey Tucker, Jack Besh. Like it's not a formidable wide receiver group. So I think that's one where I'm comfortable just putting our best on him and not really worrying about it. As for a more general scheme, I think it's going to come down to a collection of guys, Peppers, Woodson, Mapu. Like I think you have a couple options there. I think that's one that's kind of hard to predict. I'd like for it to be Woodson. I think that he definitely has the skill set to potentially be that guy. And, we saw him do that a little bit in college, but I don't know. I'm curious to see how that one shakes out.
All right. Last question here from our good friend Mike Rodnick. Mike, you gave me 3. You're only getting 2. And it's a quick one here. Will Tommy DeVito challenge for QB2? And my answer would be, my God, I hope so. I am tired of seeing Josh Dobbs throw hospital ball after hospital ball. Dan, what do you think?
I don't think so, just because I don't think that the job of a quarterback 2 is to come in and play games. I think that the job of a quarterback 2 is to be a resource in that room, especially with a more complex system like Josh McDaniels. So I think they're going to probably opt for the guy who's been in the league a little bit longer, who can be a resource to Drake, and who can kind of just mentor some guys at other positions as well. But I mean, if they did somehow decide to keep someone on the practice squad or as a quarterback 3, like I like DeVito as an option there. I think he's a decent backup, and I think he brings a fun storyline to New England.
Savage, how do we feel about Tommy Cold Cuts? Or Tommy Cutlets.
Yeah, I wish his name was Tommy Colcuts. Yeah, Tommy Italian Sub. Yeah, I agree with Dan. It's like I kind of just don't give a shit. I don't give a shit from a football aspect because I think if Drake's not playing, then you're fucked and you should be like not winning games.
Yeah, like we're not like the Green Bay Packers where we can go 5 games with a backup quarterback and win them. Like we're not going to be good if Drake goes
real talk,
down.
we'll all be talking like that. If Drake doesn't play for some reason and he's injured and he's not playing many, many, many games, we won't want them to like be winning a lot of games. And I know that's a sucky attitude. I'm just being a realist. Because I know that's how it'll be. I mean, and obviously I don't care. I think it's a funny story. I think the whole Tommy DeVito, Tommy Cutlets thing is funny. And if he comes in and wins you a few games and throws up the, Mamma Mia, whatever, cooking memes, then like, oh, great, sweet. That's awesome. Maybe they'll give me something to tweet out at the end of the season. But let's hope Drake May stays healthy.
Yes, let's hope. All right. Boys, I can't thank you enough for being here tonight. You've been more than patient with me in the return, but for all of us, for Dan, for Savage, I'm Pats Pro, and folks, I want to thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a good night. Bye.